Hello, everybody, and welcome to another conversation in our series on seeking harmony. Today is part 6, and we felt that it would be fitting to continue our conversation from last week.
What happened?
I don't know.
That's some kind of internet interference, maybe. We're having, I read on the internet, we're having solar storms this week. Don't know if that affects that.
Sorry, it just dropped our signal for a sec, so...
Yeah, it says it's still live, but it's not recording anymore.
Recording stopped. Okay.
Welcome to live feed, folks.
I'm going to mute myself just so that I can check the live feed, and then we'll continue. Okay, sorry guys, we've just had a little bit of a technical glitch. So just again, welcome to our conversation. It is part 6 of our Seeking Harmony series, and we are looking into and delving into the topic of taking ownership of our power, which we believe is a follow-through from our conversation from last week around the topic of the dynamics of power. And so one of the things that came up as we were looking into a topic was the illusion of not having power, or even just assuming that we've given away our power. And so I think something that Jeff pointed out was just in terms of how we're feeling, in terms of what's happening currently, and whether we're actually giving our power away to the situation in feeling that we're uncomfortable because we don't know where Putin is going in terms of what is currently happening across the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and what that is actually mirroring to us in terms of our power and how we use it, and also how we're feeling. And then by extension, being prepared to take a stand for what we believe in and what we are prepared to accept or not accept. And yeah, it took me into the space of kind of just feeling into where I believe my power is actually sitting, and whether or not I'm actually giving away my power or assuming I have no power in this conflict situation. And then also, you know, that Putin is reflecting to us our inner opponent, and how we are prepared to not only face that inner opponent, but deal with that inner opposition within ourselves. And really that is what actually took me to the space of, well, what is my power base? And am I giving it away? Or am I taking responsibility for it? Or am I taking ownership for it? And so, you know, a dynamic that kind of cropped up for me was that component where people talk about having given away your power or giving your power away. And it dawned on me in my healing process that my power doesn't leave. Your power doesn't actually leave. You might dwell under the misapprehension that you do not have any power, or that your power has been taken away, but it doesn't actually, your personal power doesn't leave you. So it felt to me a situation of coming back to that power and realizing that the power is still there. And in realizing that it's still there, taking ownership of that power. So yeah, I'm just going to open that up to the team in terms of where there have been situations where you may have thought that you don't have power, and what it means to you when I say your power has actually never really left you. Like, how does that feel to you in relation to your personal power?
Our ego tricks us, or we allow our egos to trick us, saying we don't have power, that we're gonna cave in, live in fear, and give up our power and be afraid. And that's all an illusion. Our ego is tricking us, and we're allowing it. We're choosing to allow that. And we do have a choice to know that we are a divine being, and that we have our power, and we have our good, and God's always with us.
And I think you mentioned something quite important in terms of the game that ego plays. And you also shared something in the group, which I also found quite fitting, was just, in terms of being tricked. It does require us to be a lot more discerning about where we are in the world and where we are in life and how we show up and what sneaky games that energy of ego actually plays. And it does require quite a certain amount of healing.
Yes.
Yeah, and so, yeah, Deji, how do you feel about it? Like, just in terms of that assumption that actually, when we feel into it, we haven't actually given our power away. We might just assume that there isn't really power in that situation.
Yeah, like Sandra said, ego can fool you. It's very sneaky, very sleazy and snakish. It can it's very manipulating and chaotic. So it can trick you to think the illusion that you don't have any power within yourself, when really it's not true. So you just have to be. So there's something that I think it was either Shaleia said in one of the meditation tracks on the CD, saying that your awareness is love. So when you're more aware of the sneakiness of the ego, it's so easy to catch on to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you've touched on something quite important in that energy of awareness, that as we become more aware through our healing, we are able to, for lack of a better expression right now, beat it at its own game, right? Because I feel like sometimes there is a dynamic of a game being played out. And so, yeah, as we heal our awareness, we raise our consciousness of that game, and we raise our consciousness of the truth about our power. And I think that's really where it struck me, in the sense that, well, it can't actually leave. So my actions, based on the misperception that there is a lack of power, is probably the thing I need to focus on more. And I think one of the most powerful things I've learned is that there's actually power in peace. And you exercise your power from that place of peace. And it's something that I've, in my journey, kind of had to heal through quite a bit. So yeah, I'm also just gonna like check in with you guys in terms of the sense of how much more powerful do you feel when you are in peace, and how does that allow you to show up in the world and show up for yourself, not only in the world but within yourself.
When I do Jeff and Shalea's meditation CD, it helps me relax and it helps me surrender to God. And then I have a lot of energy. I feel a lot of power and my heart chakra is opening and I just want to feel love and bliss. And Jeff said that our healing and the planet healing is nothing really about us going out in the physical world and doing stuff. It's all an inner journey. It's all an inner thing going on with each and every one of us inside ourselves, us loving ourselves and vibrating up and loving and sending out healing energy. That's really what it's about, the healing of ourselves and the planet. It's not necessarily going out.
Is that your computer beeping, agreeing with you?
I'm sorry, it's not me, it's outside. They're doing some kind of, what is it, painting in the exterior parts. That's all it is. It's some construction thing. I'll try to mute so you don't hear it.
No, I'm just checking it because there's no such thing as coincidence. So that's like confirmation from the universe that you're kind of on the right track here.
Yeah.
But no, I think one of the things that I feel like you led us into in just understanding that it's not the energy of going out and exercising that power. It's kind of the energy of really allowing your power to actually settle in and to feel peaceful in that space. And I think one of the things that always stands out for me is also something that Jeff and Shaleia have shared in terms of the person that holds the most peace in a situation holds the most power. And so, like, at this point, I kind of feel like as we look at this mirror that Putin is holding up to us right now, it becomes very obvious that he is not holding the most peace at this point in time. And in fact, he's put himself in such a space that he can't hold the most peace right now. And so everything that is being reflected to him in terms of the majority of the world saying, well, actually, no, that's not okay, that's not acceptable, is probably a lot of the lesson that he's called up for himself. But it's also teaching us something from the point of view of, well, you can't really sow the seeds of destruction and then accept the fruits to be peace, or expect the fruits to be peace.
Yeah, the world is mirroring to Putin what he's doing. They're mirroring back to him. And I don't think he's liking looking at it.
Yeah, listen, I wouldn't imagine that he is liking looking at it, but I think something quite important that you shared that I thought was quite fitting was the sentiment that he says he's been misinformed by his intelligence people. And so you kind of have to wonder, well, is he realizing that the corner that he's painted himself into has become too dark for him and for his nation.
Oh, only time will tell. We'll see what he says, what he spins out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so I think, you know, just, and again, I think it, you know, it is something that as we look into it, it kind of, I think it's something that Jeff shared. It's just in terms of avoid the energy of the speculation and kind of feel more into the space of what is it actually showing us, and realizing that there is a purpose to it. There's a purpose to what is happening right now. There's a purpose to the lesson. There's a purpose in politics. There's a purpose in kind of in all these systems. And I you know, I feel like we have touched on the purpose of systems in our life and how those systems are still beneficial. And how, while we're not the creators of the system necessarily, we are part of the system, but we are not of the system. So we're in it, but it's not actually completely us. It's just a component of our reality that we are living through at the moment.
I agree. We're part of God. God has the plan. We are co-creators with God. We have free will to choose, but God's in charge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do believe that the lesson always reveals itself, but we kind of need to be open to learning the lesson. And it feels like to me that there's a component of a historical lesson that the world is still learning. And at an individual level, we know that some lessons repeat themselves so that we can learn. And sometimes it's not even just learning, it's about going deeper into our healing in reviewing the lesson over and over again. And it might seem like it's almost an endless cycle, but I don't feel the endless cycle energy when things reoccur, because I do find that there's something new in it, or there's something that helps me heal at a deeper level. And so I feel like at this point, we kind of need to look at it more holistically and go like, what is this historical lesson that the world is learning again at a deeper level? While it may not be repeating itself, it is a deeper lesson. So yeah, that question was actually aimed at the two of you. If you have
I have something to add. I was giving a DG time if you wanted to say something.
Wait, repeat that question. I'm sorry. So I
So I'm
can.
just saying, if we looked at it, and it feels almost like history repeating itself, but it doesn't look exactly like history repeating itself. So what could be the deeper lesson? Yeah, and this is literally just from taking the example of your own healing, and how a repeated lesson is actually a new, deeper layer of healing. And And maybe let's make it wider. Have you experienced something to that effect before? And Sandra, while we give Deji some time to just kind of think about it over, please add your piece.
Yeah, please, yeah.
Okay. We had World War One, we had World War II. During those times, it was a dark time. They didn't have kind of like the technology that we have today and communication systems. But today we're on the verge of World War III, but we've got a lot of communication systems and technology. And all I can tell you is we're talking to each other faster than ever before in time and history. And we're standing up and saying, we won't tolerate this. We're going to stand up and say, this isn't right. You can't do this to Ukraine. That's what I see. We didn't really go into World War III yet, to my knowledge that we have. We're here where we're standing up and saying no.
Okay, all right, I needed that. Okay, so when it comes to, I guess, the notion of, you know, history repeats itself, I guess maybe to I guess would be oh, screen's frozen. 1 second, I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. I guess it would be to I guess let go of old patterns, if that makes sense. Letting go of old patterns, clearing old patterns, especially because, you know, before all this happened, we're still technically in a pandemic, which is something that is a global sensation that is showing people to let go of old patterns, which is what a lot of people have been doing or have been fighting to let go of old patterns and making the choice to let go of old patterns. So I guess maybe because, like you said, Sandra, we have all this communication and all these things happening in front of our faces instead of just in the old days where people were just reading newspapers and looking at history books and reading about things that they didn't really have much knowledge of. To have it in front of our faces, to be like, okay, this isn't right. This is not cool. And not just be so narrow-minded on just, oh, okay, yeah, that happens, and then avoid it. That's what came up for me.
I think both of you've touched on something quite important in the level of communication that we have at this stage in our lives and in this stage at the global level. And I feel like one of the things that this almost historical repetitive lesson has had a purpose to is that it has unified the world in a different way. It's almost that energy of, as opposed to taking sides, there's a much greater unification in saying no, in saying we have experienced this past levels of conflict that have been devastating to our lives, to our economies, to our realities, to our families, and we're not actually prepared to star in that movie again. And so there has been, on the flip side, a very powerful purpose to this conflict. And it's shown the power of unity at a global level. Probably the power of unity at a global level that we've never seen before.
Yeah, I've never seen this before, and it's really wonderful. It's really wonderful to see and watch. We don't have to live in fear that somebody's going to bomb over us, you know. It's really wonderful to see our planetary consciousness vibrating up and loving one another, realizing we're a global community. And that on a global level, this isn't right, we're neighbors.
Yeah, and it, like it almost feels like it's fueling the energy of interconnectedness so much more. So, like, you might have inadvertently created much more harmony through his disharmonic actions. You might have just fueled it as opposed to fueling the energy of disharmony.
I'm feeling peaceful, and that we're going to have a peaceful resolution to all this.
And I think it's something that we've been calling in, right? We've been, from an individual level, calling in a much healthier world, a much healthier way of life.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we choose at an individual level to heal, that we are seeing out of the pandemic just the desire for greater stability across many spheres of life, kind of was probably quite a good precursor to what this conflict actually really surfaced. Because as opposed to feeling like some person was crunching numbers in a dark corner saying the world is asking for more stability, we're actually seeing through these mostly unified actions from very powerful countries, that desire for stability is being reflected at a greater global level. It's literally the collective reflecting that individual desire more.
How I interpret that is in Jeff and Shalea's New Earth series, as we're getting into harmonious union with our twin flames and we're healing, this is going to have a global effect. Like, we're going to be more conscious of the energy around the earth and sending out energy, and it heals the planet. More people are going to be more conscious on the planet about everything, the planet, the plants, the animals, the food, the air, the water, your bodies, medicine. Is kind of like being in harmonious union. That's what we're going to have. We're going to have the extra energy from God to be able to be more aware of this and to have choice and decide what you're going to do on a planetary level.
Yeah, and it is that power of choice, right? And I think that that's one of the lessons that having come out or having gone through a pandemic and having come out of it to the greatest extent, we are definitely seeing dwindling numbers in terms of infections and deaths and those kind of things. And I feel like these past 2 years has allowed us all to just sit down and pay attention. And so having gone through these last 2 years of sitting down and paying attention and really assessing life, for something like this type of conflict to happen now, I feel like we are going to pay more attention to it, because we have cultivated a greater skill at assessing what is right for us and what is not right for us, and how we feel about it, and acting from that place. So I feel like it's been a good precursor. Yes, it's by design. I don't think by design I would have designed it in that way, but it served a purpose. Again, it's kind of served a purpose, and it's actually just made us much more aware of life at not only an individual level, but at a greater national level, at a greater global level.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Every day I wore a mask and had to go into a store. I was always mindful of everything, like the germs in the air, the earth. How is this affecting this? How is this affecting that? Coming home, it always made me mindful.
And I think I feel like that's been the point. The point is that it has made us more mindful, whereas we might have in the past been a little bit more unconscious and oblivious, or chosen to be unconscious and oblivious.
Some of us would be careless and not think about it. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, but that's true. That is absolutely true, because again, it's literally the situation of, well, I'm a little bit removed from it, so I'm not affected by it. So why should I do anything? Why should I act in any way? And literally, the last 2 years have gone, well, actually, it's so easy to be affected by it. Pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to what's happening. Don't hide your head in the sand because, well, you're removed from it.
Hiding your head in the sand only makes things worse. When you take your head out of the sand, it's magnified 100 times.
well, let's be honest. There's probably more germs in the sand than there are in the air. So there's no value in hiding your head in the sand. But yeah, it's like I think it's been a lot of, for me, it's been a lot of energy of contemplation and kind of having the opportunity to really sit with myself and unpack those things that I may not have taken as much time to unpack in the past. But what it has done is it's made me more aware of myself, and of myself in relation to life, and of myself in relation to the rest of the world. So I do believe that it served a purpose, and I do believe that even though this conflict is a seriously uncomfortable and probably quite dangerous situation for the people that are close to it, it really does require, it has just allowed us to actually realize how much more of a global citizen we actually are, and why it's important for us to not only be aware of things, but to be aware of our power to change things and our power to stand up to things that we don't believe are right. So literally given us pause to say, well, are you actually supporting, are you sitting in the courage of your convictions, and are you prepared to act on them?
The Russian soldiers, they're there and they have to deal with it. You know, maybe they didn't want to go, but they did. Some of them have deserted the Russian army.
No, you know, I almost feel like, because, you know, it's like one of the reports that came up was that the Russian, certain parts of the Russian army are saying, whether under duress or not, that they were misinformed about what's actually happening. And so you know, sometimes I just like, I feel like it's that energy of claiming ignorance and hoping that that excuses the behavior. And then you kind of have to apply the legal principle of, well, ignorance of the law doesn't excuse you from acting within the law. And so you have to wonder, are they misinformed, or are they reflecting that energy of having given their power away? Because I can't imagine for myself that, and it might be their training, but like, I'm not certain that I'm comfortable to just blindly follow orders. And so we also need to understand their level of training and what they can and cannot question. And when you sign up for that kind of thing, are you actually signing up for the inadvertent use of your power in whichever way the military would decide to use it, or a dictator would decide to use it, or a country would decide to use it?
I know in the past, some people didn't agree with the Vietnam War and they deserted the army or the military. They left the country, you know. But if they wanted to come back to the country, they might have to face consequences. But it's where God puts you. It's where God placed you, you know. I was born here and everyone was born somewhere, and it's where God placed us to be where we're at, to do what we got to do. It's our path.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, and it, you know, it's something that stands out for me in you saying that is that it's our path. I also feel like there's probably significant lessons that we are all learning or called to learn. And we've also been taught quite significantly that we call in our lessons in order to ascend, in order to transcend certain things. And so, yeah, I agree with you that it is their path. But under these circumstances, there's also the opportunity for them to learn to exercise their power, specifically where they choose not to support that aggressive kind of behavior. So yes, they might face consequences, but at the same time, the short-term consequences, do they outweigh the long-term consequences?
I think we're evolving to that point, you know. We know what the end result or the end goal is, that we all feel loved and supported and can make that choice and feel good about doing it. But we're all evolving to that point.
Yeah, and I agree with you that it is an evolution, and it's always going to be still, at the end of the day, you still have the power of choice, right? And still your choice to learn or not learn. It's your choice to repeat exactly the same lesson or to repeat the lesson at a different level so that you heal at a different level, or that you transcend something completely because you've completely healed it. So at the end of the day, I feel like there is quite a bit in terms of what is happening being mirrored to us. And I feel like one of the bigger things that I've observed is that Germany has transcended that consciousness of being the aggressor by actually stepping in and saying, we are going to provide support against an aggressor under these circumstances. It's like the national lesson has changed form.
Yeah, that's wonderful to see. That shows growth, evolution. More shall come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just, again, it's reflective of our own choice to heal. And the choice to heal does start with the awareness that healing is actually required. Like you can't work with somebody who believes that they have nothing to learn, or they have no growth. There's nothing to be grown, nothing to be healed. You know, I feel like that's kind of almost a non-starter energy. In that, for me, I almost have this perception that I can't work with somebody who's not choosing to heal. And if they're choosing to heal for somebody else, it's also not effective. You kind of need to choose to heal for you, so that your life shifts, your reality shifts, you shift. And that choice to heal, I think, is reflected in what's happening or being displayed by Germany. It's also what's happening at a global level in what's being displayed from just the majority of countries and national consciousnesses saying, no, we are not going to support the aggressor. We support peace. We support the fact that we cannot have this type of aggression and destruction at the national level. So anything else that you guys want to just touch on?
Yeah, we always have choice and we're always healing. And the same goes for anyone around us. And they must choose to love themselves and heal themselves. Everyone's at a different place, though.
Yeah, I agree with you that everybody's at a different place, but also I believe that that power of choice is significant. And as long as we realize that actually our power never left, we always have the choice to take responsibility for, or take ownership of our power, and to choose to stand up for what we believe in. And it's something that Jeff and Shaleia shared in their video in terms of some of the spiritual lessons that are being displayed right now. And again, yeah, and just coming back to that space of, do you believe that you are powerless and that you inadvertently or advertently are giving away your power? And to realize that actually, one, your power can't be taken away from you unless you choose not to exercise your power. And two, once you do choose to heal and realize that you actually do have power, whether that power is to heal at an individual level so that it influences consciousness, or heal at an individual level and act on an external level, because there's always the energy of requiring follow through. So it's not just about making a choice. Like, you can't choose that I'm going to work harder, but then not actually follow through in terms of taking those action steps to implement and support your choice. So I just feel like the greater lesson that's being reflected is, yes, you have power, take ownership of your power, but also act in accordance with that choice.
I agree with you. Some people may have forgotten, due to separation consciousness, that they have power, and they just need a little nudge and to be reminded, oh, you do have power. You can make choice. I agree with you.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I feel like for today, that's a good place to round off our conversation. So I'm going to say thank you to the two of you for being here and for the conversation, and to everybody that's joined us today. And also, we'd like to invite you to like and subscribe to our Church of Union YouTube channel, where you will find all our past conversations in our series on seeking harmony, and any other live discussions that have happened in the Unionism Spiritual Discussion Group on Facebook. And we look forward to seeing all of you again next week. So thank you, everybody, for joining us, and have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.